Welcome to Energetic Advantage, the podcast where energy isn't woo, it's your edge. I'm your host, Jessica Serrato, intuitive strategist, lifelong pattern decoder, lover of numbers, and energetic guide for visionary leaders. Around here, we go energy first, strategy second. Every episode will give you a perspective, a tool, or a timeline shift that helps you lead from your power. Because the truth is, your energy is your most undervalued asset until you learn how to use it. Get ready, you're about to have the advantage. Let's begin. I just fell for the oldest trick in the book. Picture this. I am setting myself up down in my office to record this podcast. Strategically, I have my kids and the dog outside playing with the sprinkler. And then all of a sudden, right before I hit record, I'm like, Mom! So I run out. They're like, the sprinkler's not working. Can you check it out? And I check everything. They're like, no, go closer to the sprinkler. It looks down there. There's something on the top of the sprinkler that's not working. So I get my face down in the sprinkler. I'm trying to help. And then all of a sudden, boop, water comes on. I get completely soaked and I look over and my two kids are laughing uncontrollably. Gotcha, Mom. Okay. So if you're looking at me, you see I'm a little bit disheveled, and yet this is the energy of summer with kids, CEO and founder of a business. So let's go. As they say, I hope this podcast finds you well. This is how the podcast finds me, and we are here for it. So let's get into the topic of today. And I'm going to start with William Shakespeare. Dun, dun, dun. You know, that famous line in Romeo and Juliet where Juliet asks, what's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Speaking about Romeo. But would it? I've actually spent a lot of time thinking about that question because numbers are a language. And humans, we did not invent numbers. We simply discovered them. They're woven into nature and music, mathematics, architecture, our bodies, and into our lives as well. And so if numbers carry frequency, which they do, and letters become numbers, and numbers represent letters, the question is, well, do names carry frequency as well? Spoiler, of course they do. And today I want to talk about something that really completely changed the way that I go about naming businesses, programs, books, babies, honestly, everything. Because a name is not just a label. A name is an intention. And I actually think a name is an invitation. And it's one of the first energetic decisions we ever make. So it's an important topic to dive into. And yeah, let's start. So where do we start? Okay, so let's start with Pythagoras. Okay, stay with me, everybody. Most people I know remember Pythagoras of high school geometry. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Yes, that guy. But what fascinated Pythagoras wasn't just mathematics. His broader concept is that the entire universe is built on these mathematical relationships. Yes. Music follows mathematical ratios. Nature follows mathematical patterns. The planets move in mathematical rhythms. Everything has order. Everything has pattern. And one of the systems attributed to the Pythagorean school is assigning numbers to letters. So A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, all the way to 9. And then it repeats. So if you get to I equals 9, then you start again at J, and J equals 1, right? You can create this for yourself, this kind of graph. And that means that every word, every business, every book, every city, every name of a person, in addition to their birth date, has this numerical signature, has a frequency to the letters, when combined into a word, hold its energy of its own. And you know me, I'm not saying your name determines your destiny, as you'll hear other people say, because I don't believe numbers control us, and I don't believe energy controls us. But what I do believe is they reveal us. And when we can really work with and harness the energy, and in this case, our name or the name of our business or program or wherever it is, we can not only understand it more deeply, but we can broaden the intention. And I feel I was literally born to talk about this because I have a kind of a funny, I feel like a ha-ha moment about my own name. So my parents were convinced that I was going to be a boy. Okay, they had the name picked out, Matthew. So I arrived, surprise! Spoiler, I'm a girl. And I was not Matthew. And so shoot, they needed a girl's name. And because it was the late 70s, of course, one of the most popular names imaginable was Jessica. And I don't even have a middle name. So my entire name, Jessica Serrato, when you take those individual letters, again, so if we just start with the J equals 1, E equals 5, right? S equals 1, so forth. You add them all together, Jessica Serrato reduces to the number 11, which also happens to be my ruling number. The number, if I add all of the digits of my birth date together, it also equals an 11. So an 11 was born into an 11 energy. Do I think my parents secretly knew and was studying Pythagorean numerology? No. But do I find it fascinating that the frequency that I've spent my entire life growing into is reflected in the name that I've carried since the day I was born? Absolutely. And the interesting thing, and maybe it has to do with the commonality of the name or just the fact that I'm literally coded to it, for most of my entire life, I haven't been known as Jess or Jessica. It's been Jessica Serrato. It started in high school, Grant Kretschik, hello Grant, where really everyone called me Jess Serrato. Jess Serrato, Jess Serrato. Jess Serrato. They would sing it to me, right? So much so that that is the name I carried. And I'll never forget, oh my gosh, the hockey girls are gonna laugh at this. My best friends in university, we played field hockey together. And I was in a class, I forget, and I was in a group, and one of the guys, we were exchanging, oh my gosh, were we exchanging dorm room numbers or maybe phone numbers at that point because we didn't have cell phones? And so he was writing it down in his paper and he was like, okay, sorry, can you just spell your first name? And I was like, what the heck, dude? Like, okay, Jessica. And he looked at me, he was like, oh my gosh. He's like, that's your name? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I thought your first name was Jess Serrato. Like that's what he thought my first name was. So this has followed me. And I'm sure many of you have different and interesting stories about your own name. And also, if you have a name that can be reduced or changed, for example, like my name, Jessica can be Jess, can be Jessica, depending on who calls you what, or even just how you are called, it changes the frequency. And I'd also like to shout out my Uncle Brad. I love you, Uncle Brad, who is the only person in this lifetime who will I ever allow to call me Jessie. Because it's the frequency that carries when he says it, which makes a difference. So can I prove anything from these examples of stories that I've shared with you? No, I don't need to. I just think that a moment with your name, the moment with my name, made me pause and wonder. And it's like, what is this inviting me to notice? And again, I think inherently, we already know that names matter. Like parents literally agonize over baby names, right? There's books and books about babies' names, the most popular names of each year. Authors choose pen names. Actors change their names. Musicians use names to reinvent themselves. Companies spend millions of dollars naming products through that whole process. And because of that, entire branding agencies exist just to help these said businesses find the right name. We already know that names matter. But today, I'm just sharing you this layer underneath of really what is happening and why. And to do that, I want to give you some examples through the lens of numerology. And I hope you love this as much as I do, because I just think this is fascinating. Okay. Did you know that Google wasn't originally called Google? In the late 90s, it changed its name to Google. But before that, it was called, get ready for it, I really can't even say this without laughing, back rub. Look it up. I'm serious. So can you imagine now just how we use the name Google as a verb? Like, hey, Google that. Can you imagine? Oh, hey, I'll back rub that. Oh, hey, can you just back rub that and let me know? Right? The technology did not change, but the name did. And the underlying math and frequency underneath the name changed as well. And it was at that moment that Google started to skyrocket because the energy was different. Back rub reduces to a 4. Google reduces to a 7. Just feel the difference. Back rub feels practical, functional, like almost mechanical, right? And Google feels more curious, more playful, more infinite. It feels like discovery. I'm literally describing Google, and I'm also literally describing the energy of the 7. And it aligned in a way that the energy of what was underneath it was felt at the core of the name. And then that alignment in frequency is what allowed it to expand. Okay, let's do another one. Nike wasn't always Nike. It began as Blue Ribbon Sports. So Blue Ribbon Sports reduces to a 9 and Nike reduces to a 3. And I think you're gathering by these examples. Like, I'm not telling you that one number is better than another. I'm just asking you, what name feels more memorable in relation to the brand? Which one feels like movement? Which one feels, in the case of Nike, that something you chant from the sidelines or like wear across your chest? And that is the energy of the 3. Excitement, play, expression. Apple is actually another one. And this is an interesting example because in the first 2 examples I gave, the entire name shifted. But in Apple, you're going to see that the name actually reduced. It kind of shrunk. And as a result of it, it expanded. So it's not always about completely changing. And it's not always about adding to. Sometimes it's like less is more. So originally, the name of the company was Apple Computer. Apple Computer reduces to an 8. But Apple reduces to a 5. So think about the difference. Apple Computer obviously sounds like a computer company, right? Apple sounds like anything. Music, phones, watches, TV, health, AI, who knows what's next? That's the 5. That's the freedom. The shorter name actually created room for the company to grow. You guys, this is too fun, but I'll do one more. But I'm hoping with these examples, you're already calculating fast and furious. I do this in my head, I will say, all the time. When someone says a word and it pings for me, or when people choose to use a specific word, I really pick up on this power of language. And like I said, I do this in my head at least 100 times a day. Okay, but let's talk about Queen, the band. So before Freddie Mercury joined the band, there was 2 other members, and they had their band name and was called Smile. And again, Smile reduces to a 4. Here's that 4 again. But Queen reduces to an 8. And that 8 feels powerful. Walking into a room before anyone else does, right? That flow and momentum and emotional strength. So I'm not saying that the number made the band successful, but I am saying that the name tells a different story when you interact with it. And this is exactly why I believe that naming is architecture. Most people make the mistake of choosing names because they sound catchy, or the domain is available, or someone else likes it. And sure, I guess those are all reasons, but there is definitely another question that I need you to ask, which is, with this name choice, or with my name that I've already chosen, what frequency am I inviting people into? So again, you're not asking what's the best number here, what's the best energy here. There isn't one. Every number has gifts. And remember, the reason why Jessica Serrato is the perfect name for me is because the 11 of that name matches the 11 of my soul, of my birth date. But Jessica Serrato, for anyone born on another day with a different energy, wouldn't have had that same match. So the question, again, I want you to ask yourself is, does the frequency of the name match the experience that I am trying to create? Now, again, I want to be clear. I don't think that a new name automatically creates success, right? If that were true, every rebrand would work, and we know that it doesn't. But I do think that the right name, and I guess I'm using right in quotation marks, the most aligned, authentic name really gives success somewhere to land. It's kind of like you're tuning an instrument before the concert starts or before you start to play music. And this brings me to my latest project, the development of the app. And this is actually a behind the scenes story that I've never shared, but it's a perfect, segue or part of this conversation. Now, if you don't know, my team and I, we are launching an app, an energetic app that will get you checking the energy just like you check the weather every day. It's personalized, coded to you, as well as gives you insights on the universal energy. I'm so excited for you to start to explore it. I'll share a little bit more about it at the end, but in the show notes, there's a link to the waitlist, and pretty soon it will be available on Apple and Google. Oh my gosh, I love that I used those two examples. I did not, should I tell you I did it intentionally and just pretend that I did? I did not. Notice I used Google and Apple as examples in today's podcast episode when literally the app will be available on those two platforms. And it would have been so different. Imagine if I was like, okay, the app is going to be available on Backrub and Apple Computer. Totally different, right? Okay, so here's the backstory. When I was naming the app, I wasn't necessarily looking for something beautiful or clever. I wanted the mathematics underneath the name to match the mathematics underneath the mission. And so yes, I calculated names, like a lot, over and over and over again. And when I landed on, getting ready to hear the name of the app for the first time, Inner Compass, guys, guess what it reduced to? An 11. My ruling number, the same signature as my own name, and a visionary path, energetic leadership. This was not an accident. It was a decision, because every single day when someone opens that app or tells someone about the app or says Inner Compass out loud, I want them to experience the frequency that inspired it. And that's the kind of intention that excites me. Here's something I'd really love for you to try this week. Become a collector of names. As you walk through the grocery store, maybe you go through a bookstore, or you're scrolling on your phone or through podcasts, or looking at restaurants, the menu, products, hotels, apps. Look at what words really jump out at you. And before you calculate anything, I just want you to ask yourself, does this name feel like the experience? Does an orange feel like the frequency of the number underneath the orange? Does this movie or this artist, right? It doesn't have to be anything profound. Although yes, if you are in the process of anything to do with naming your business, if you have a baby on the way, if you are even launching a product or a service or an event, this is definitely something that you're going to want to do. But again, I want you to ask yourself, does this name feel like the experience? And I want you to train your intuition first, because your intuition is where numerology begins. It's simply a language, right, for your intuition. And the math simply will give language to that, what you already sensed. And then I want you to calculate it. And I want you to see what you notice. Will knowing the number make you feel any different about the word? Maybe. But more importantly, I think it's just going to help you understand why something feels the way it does. And just by a slight tweak of a word or a language or a descriptor or even a letter can change the whole energy underneath something. So let me come back to William Shakespeare, right? Where we started. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Maybe. Or maybe a name is more than a label. Maybe it's an intention. Maybe it's a frequency. Maybe it's a story waiting to be lived. And if numbers really are the language of the universe, which I believe they are, then every time we choose a name, we are writing poetry in mathematics. I could just cry saying that. Thank you for exploring this concept with me. If today's episode made you curious, I'd love to hear from you. Calculate your first name, calculate your full name, calculate your business, your favorite brand, right? Random words, and then send me a message on Instagram and tell me what you discovered. Because I have a feeling that this is only the beginning of the conversation, and I am here for it. And while you are in the energy of names, I want to remind you of the name of the newest app called Inner Compass. My team and I are so close to launching this and sharing it with the world. And by the way, huge kudos, what's the energy of that word, my friends? And thank you to my amazing team, who without them, I could not have done it, literally. Go to the show notes, get on the wait list, because you're not just going to be the first person to know when the app's available. We have some really fun experiences and prizes and some winks from the universe for those who are early adopters. So get on that wait list, calculate those names. Do not get fooled by your children who ask you to check on the sprinkler. You are too smart for that, my friends. Not me. Thank you for joining on this episode, and I will see you next time. Happy summer.
Thanks for being here inside The Energetic Advantage. If today's episode opened something for you, share it, tag it, or send it to the person who popped into your mind. And remember, energy first, strategy second. Your advantage has always been in you. Now it's time to lead with it. See you next time.